He fights. And that's why I think Trump's numbers are so good. He fights. I don't think he's... Look, anybody who's given money to the Hillary Clinton campaign and who's in favor of universal health care, provided by the government, just that alone, just the health care alone, if you believe in government-sponsored, universal, single-payer health care, you are by definition not a conservative. I can't see any way to square those two things. It's the antithesis of what we believe. So he's not a conservative, but he fights. And he is a businessman. And so we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean? Ray Schneider says, does Trump fade or grow? Will he either kill or enhance his candidacy? What will either kill or enhance his candidacy? A month ago, I would have told you this Trump thing be over by now. It's gotten bigger, and it's gotten bigger because he fights. And as I see him fight, I find myself softening towards him. I find him more appealing because I don't want. It's not like this is a contradiction for me, or I'm changing my opinions on things. I'm enormously concerned about his philosophical background. I'm very concerned about a lot of his rhetorical excesses. However, we've been saying that the pop culture is everything. That the reason that the Republicans for the last 7-8 years now have not stopped this guy is because they're all suffering from Stockholm syndrome. They can't attack Obama because they're afraid. They're afraid of the press. They're afraid of what they're going to be called. Romney couldn't run on the fact that he had $250 million because he was afraid. He was afraid that they would make him out to be a rich guy and an evil guy. So Donald Trump Romney never released his tax returns until very late. And when he was questioned about his money, well, I don't know, gee whiz, Donald Trump is not ashamed or afraid of being rich. He's not afraid or ashamed of the press. And when I saw him out there taking a question from CNN, it was a set-up question. He basically said, there's 10 protesters outside and 5,000, whatever the response was, 5,000 people in the house, 10 protesters outside. The fact that you would lead with a question is just absurd. Where are you from? CNN? And then he did something like this, CNN. You people don't cover anything accuracy. It's kind of said like you're like a joke. And the room went nuts. And I went nuts too, because it's this combination of the news media, which you can kind of center in New York, and the whole Hollywood. When I say Hollywood, I mean things like The Daily Show, the whole culture, the pop culture scenes centered out here in Hollywood. He's going right to the source of the problem, and he's not backing down. That is very, very powerful. Now, needless to say, I'm not pleased about a number of things that Donald Trump has done and a lot of his positions. I'm not pleased about them at all. I don't think that this, ship 25 million people out is, I'm not going to say it's not doable. I think people say, well, that's impossible. I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. Of course it's possible. Building a fence possible? Absolutely it's possible. I don't have any problem with in fact, I'm strongly in favor of a border fence. I am not in favor of just shipping 25 million people out not because it can't be done, but because there's a better way to deal with this. I live in California. I live in Southern California. I'm surrounded by Mexicans. I don't know how many of them here legally or not, but I'll tell you one thing. The Mexicans that I run into in restaurants or the people who I meet every day are not only some of the nicest people I've ever met, they're some of the hardest working people I've ever met. They're hard-working people. They're very hard-working people. And if they want to come here as guest workers, I think they should stay as guest workers. If they want to become U.S. citizens, I think there should be a pathway for them, and they get in line, and they wait, and they don't get in front of people who are already in line. But certainly, if you want to become a U.S. citizen and be admitted based on the same criteria as everybody else, I'm completely in favor of this. Put all that aside for a second, though. The question then becomes, if it is Donald Trump, well, would you vote for him? I would, in a heartbeat. I would vote. I wouldn't say in a heartbeat. I would vote for him. Would I vote for him over Hillary Clinton? I'd vote for him in an instant over Hillary Clinton. I'd vote for him in an instant over Bernie Sanders. I'd vote for him in an instant over anybody on the other side of the aisle. Because right now, the critical thing in America, there's two things that are really, 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 really important and have to be fixed right away. One of them is a return to lawfulness on the part of the government. Donald Trump is not my first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth choice for that. But the second thing we need to do is get this economy jump-started, because we need to show the American people the difference between 8 years of socialism and 1 year of the free market. And with the exception of Carly Fiorina, I can't imagine anybody who would be able to get this economy going who understands how businesses actually work. Now, he's obviously got a mercantilist streak. That's a problem. It's not as much of a problem as Hillary Clinton's soft communism or Bernie Sanders' actual communism. So I'd vote for Donald Trump as a Republican candidate over any of the Democrats if he was the nominee. And here's something that bears some discussion because it's an important distinction. I said before, and I meant it, that I would not, however, vote for Jeb Bush. I would not, if it were Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush and Bernie Sanders, I'm telling you, I will not vote for Jeb Bush. How can you say such a thing, Bill? How can you say such a thing? Well, I can say such a thing because I love my country, so let me make my case for you. We lost the 2012 election because we were handed the only guy who could not run on the only issue that could defeat Obama, which was Obamacare. We had the guy who invented Obamacare versus the guy who implemented Obamacare. So in 2008, we had a guy who basically 6 weeks before the election said to his inner circle, although not to the American people because I think we deserve to know, John McCain essentially said, I'm not going to be the man who stands in front of America's first black president. Well, John, tell us publicly so we can find somebody who will. This is the problem. The reason Obama has gotten away with what he's gotten away with, the reason he's not impeached is because the Republican leadership is not conservative. The Republican GOP leadership is the party of slightly less big government. And they are the problem. And if they were going to give us Jeb Bush, and if we were going to get another 4 years of this kind of Coke Light kind of thing, then there's no end to it, you see. We would become to the Republican Party, conservatives and Tea Party people would become to the Republican Party what black Americans are to the Democratic Party, which is a power base that they can basically just piss on as much as they want to for as long as they want to, with the absolute assurance that no matter how huffy we get and how much the rhetoric gets cranked up, we'll be there to vote for him at the end. And I will not be a part of this anymore. I won't. I will not. I would rather lose an election at the presidency level or 2 or 3 or 4 than have a conservative party or start one. So the reason I could vote for Trump and not for Bush, even though Bush may be more conservative than Trump is that Jeb Bush is a cynical insider who is business as usual. It's the Beltway versus the American people. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is not a politician. He's not part of the GOP machine. He is, in fact, a loose cannon, and maybe a loose cannon is what you need to clear the decks, who knows. European intellectuals hate Donald Trump. They despise him, so that's a big point in his favor. That's definitely pushing me in his direction. I think he's a Trumpian. I think if it goes to the wire, and by the way, I don't think it will. I'm maybe proven wrong about this. I don't think he's going to last. I don't. I think he's strong now because there's so many candidates that the total vote is fractured over so many places that he's scooping up a lot of the people who've, not really decided, I don't much like any of this. But as this field starts to narrow down from, 163 Republican candidates, it'll eventually get down to 100, then it'll get down to 20, then it'll get down to 10. Once it starts to get around 6 or 7 or so, you're going to start to see some clear positions. And then once you do that, I think he's going to fade. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. I think Donald Trump would whip Hillary Clinton. And the reason he would whip her is because, unlike the last 2 candidates that we've had as Republicans, he would fight. Hillary Clinton would have to take questions from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump wouldn't care what people think. That's what I like about him. He doesn't care. He doesn't have to. And he would destroy Bernie Sanders. By the way, if Hillary Clinton drops out of this race because she's in prison, I don't see any way that the Democrats can win. This will be what they put on my gravestone because obviously we haven't figured in on the stupidity of the Republican Party as a party. I'm sure we'll find a way to blow it. But honestly, she has 30 years of liberal high hopes on her, and they don't transfer. And not only are Hillary's backers leaving her in large numbers, so are Jeb's. And so this gigantic thing that I feared the most for the future of the country, not even the individual policies of either Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton, or even so much even the fact that they're such insiders, the thing that I was filled with loathing of was this idea that we get dynasties now. We have the House of the Bushes and we have the House of the Clintons, and then we have the Clinton 1, and then Bush 1, and then Clinton 2, Bush 2, Bush 3, Clinton 3, Clinton 4, Clinton 5, Bush 6. No, I don't think either of them's going to be the nominee. And just as a quick parenthetical, Hillary Clinton is in actual trouble. This thing grows every day. And it's interesting, isn't it, that that the FBI is investigating and uncovering these records on the part of Hillary Clinton when they didn't uncover them on the part of Eric Holder, or they didn't uncover them on the part of Lois Lerner, or they didn't uncover them on the part of anybody else who Barack Obama throws his cloak of invisibility over. Now, I think it's pretty clear that Barack Obama wants Hillary Clinton to fail. And I think he wants her to fail, not for any giant strategic political reason, certainly not for the future of the Democratic Party. He's left the Democratic Party in ruins, as they're about to discover. I think Barack Obama wants Hillary Clinton to go down because Barack Obama does not want anybody to outshine Barack Obama. We had our first historic president, and that's got to be preserved. You can't have one historic president followed by another historic president, right? That would be less historic. And you don't want Obama to be bookended by Clintons. I think this whole thing is happening because Obama's secretly encouraging it to happen. I think she's going down. And listen, let me just say one more thing about this Clinton thing. I got a question coming up here. I'll just jump to it while I'm on it. Matthew Lloyd says, why aren't more conservative politicians calling for Hillary's head over the email scandal? If she were Republican, she would have been shamed out of office or arrested by now. She wouldn't have been shamed out of office. She would have been arrested. The reason that conservatives aren't calling for Hillary's head is because, like everybody else, with the exception of Trump or one or two others, Carly's real good about this too. They don't want to be perceived as misogynist. See, this is the term that we've been using, but nobody really understands how it works. This is what prepping the battle space means. When you spend 2 or 3 years talking about a war on women that doesn't exist, and then it comes time to actually criticize the woman candidate for the Democratic Party, then they can say, see, they're doing the same thing with this Black Lives Matter, by the way. They're making it impossible for the police to function. That's a whole different story. So, she's got all of this lifetime worth of goodwill on the part of liberals, and she's going down because Obama's letting her go down. He's going to let this thing happen. I don't know that she gets out of this. Not only do I not think she gets out of it in terms of the email thing, but I don't know how her image recovers. She looks so awful. She's so thin-skinned and so petty, and her jokes, and she looks like the guy, looks like the Martin Short character on Saturday Night Live. It's like, Mrs. Clinton, did you, many of these emails that you claimed, weren't classified were in fact classified, and she's almost like, I know that. You don't think I know that? I know that. I know that. It's just like one giant. I've never seen a worse liar. Hillary Clinton is Bill Clinton without the charm and the ability to lie well. All of the corruption, none of the charm. So the Donald Trump phenomenon and the Bernie Sanders phenomenon is a reaction against the horrific general nature of business as usual politics. And this is the last question on Trump that I took. I guess there might have been one or two others. Sorry if I missed yours. Matthew Lloyd says, is the rhetoric stating a vote for Trump means abandoning your principles hyperbole or truth? Do you think he really does love America and wants to make her great again? If so, does that impact your willingness to vote for him if he gets the nomination? I'll do that backwards. If he is the nominee of the Republican Party, I'll vote for him. If Jeb Bush is, I won't, for reasons I just explained. Do I think he really loves America and want to make it great again? I categorically do. And that alone is enough to vote for him, because Bernie Sanders doesn't love this country. He doesn't love anything about this country. He thinks the economic system that this country is a champion of is evil and wrong. He wants to destroy it. Hillary Clinton doesn't love this country. She certainly doesn't love the people of this country. She loves the power of the country. We came, we saw, he died. She likes that kind of thing. She likes flying around on jets like Barack Obama does and Bill does. Bill did it just for the tail. Bill just did it because it was, so you want to talk about the ultimate pickup opportunity. Being the most powerful man in the world means all of a sudden that this, chipmunk-faced, fast-talking guy who would have been much more appropriate as a used car salesman in Little Rock, gets Sharon Stone's attention. So we all know why Bill wanted to be president, and Hillary just wants to do it for the power, and I think Hillary's motivation is to get back at Bill. I think that's pretty much it. But I think Donald Trump does love this country. I'm not trying to suggest Donald Trump's doing it for the country. I think Donald Trump's doing it for Donald Trump. That's all Donald Trump does, is things for Donald Trump. But Donald Trump does love this country. And Donald Trump has a reason to love this country. You see, Donald Trump started, I don't know if he started with nothing, but he didn't start with what he had. He was not Donald Trump the third, He basically built things out of, he did build it. He loves this country. The country's made him very rich. He's employed a lot of people, paid a lot of taxes, and a lot of people are working for him and getting paychecks because of Donald Trump. So I do think he gets this country economically, and I think he does love this country. And that's enough reason to vote for him in a field as sparse and as treasonous as this one is on the other side of the aisle. I think that'll do it for Trump today.